On today's episode of Grow Up, Level Up, How We Play, we have a very special guest. Victoria Tran is coming on to talk about her work as a community director for a little game you might have heard of, Among Us, and Innersloth, and Outersloth. She's going to talk about all that and her new book, Mastering Community Management, and more on today's episode of Grow Up, Level Up, How We Play. All right, welcome to Grow Up, Level Up, How We Play, the interview podcast where we talk to folks about how games influence their day-to-day lives, how they implement it, and a little bit about how they grew up with games. But today we have a very special guest. My name is Samson XP. Joined to me is my co-host, as always, Jordan. Hello, Jordan. How are you? I haven't actually talked to you in a while.
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I just noticed this might be the first appearance of my dog. If you're not watching the video version, that's her butt right there. She's under the table. But
yeah, more reason to come over to YouTube to look at Jordan's dog's butt.
That's right.
But we're not here to talk about Jordan's dog's butt. We're here to talk to a very special guest, Victoria Tran, Communications Director at Innersloth. Welcome to the show, Victoria.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's going to be hard to follow up Jordan's dog's butt, but I will try my best to be entertaining.
I'm sure you'll do amazing. Before we get too deep into your role as a community director, your experience in community management, and maybe give some folks some tips on how they can be better community ambassadors, managers, whatever you want to call it. I think we should learn a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? And tell us a little bit more about your new book as well.
Yeah. Okay. There's a laundry list of things I'm going to go through. So please forgive dear listener. So I'm the community director at Innersloth and also at Outersloth. Outersloth is like our indie game fund. Innersloth makes Among Us, which... Again, maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you haven't. Who knows?
I love
niche indie games. We're in that kind of territory now. And I also do a lot of community things on the side. I am clearly very into communications and community management. So I recently wrote a book that came out. It's called Mastering Community Management. You can get it now. And I also am on the Game Developers Conference Advisory Board for Business and Marketing. I am a partner for Wholesome Games. And yeah, I just do a lot of things in the games industry, which is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, I have been following you for a while, so this is kind of my fanboy moment, if I will, if I may. I worked as a community manager as my first time as a community manager, my last job at a tech accelerator, and I was looking for resources online, and then I was looking at games because I just like games. Found you and your newsletter, and I learned so much from that, and the week to week, and the memes in it. It was great. So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's always very, it's always that thing where you kind of write your newsletter or you post and then you don't think about it until someone that you're kind of talking to acknowledges it. And you're like, oh God, people see this. That's terrifying.
People actually read this. Yeah.
I know. Weird.
Well, that's awesome. Well, to know a little more about you, I always ask every guest this question, but what did you bring today to drink on the podcast?
Yeah. I have a confession. So I got a bubble tea for this podcast recording, and then I drank it all before the podcast happened because I have no self-control clearly when it comes to getting bubble tea. So instead, I have water because
healthy,
I apologize.
What's your bubble tea of choice?
Honestly, it really depends on the weather and what I'm feeling. So usually in the summer months, I'm feeling that mango, coconutty kind of anything around that. But then, when it's winter, then I'm into my milk teas again.
Where are you based out of? What, if you don't mind saying, what kind of weather are we dealing with here?
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, you are in Vancouver?
So Pacific Northwest,
get out of here. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in Edmonton, so...
Oh, okay.
I'm also based in Vancouver, so we're enjoying the weather now. And I agree. Those mango teas are pretty good. Maku
so
tea,
good.
shout out.
Oh, yeah.
Another question I have to ask is, what is your favorite game of all time? I'm assuming you like video games. You work in games and
no, I hate them.
Oh, crazy. Weird.
Are we here to talk about games? Oh, I gotta go.
Yeah, talk about work. Yeah, sorry.
This is such a hard question to answer, honestly. I feel like it changes all the time and like I don't know, but I have such fond memories of like The Sims.
Oh, good Paul.
And I don't know, and just like everything that kind of like opened up for me. So I sometimes I'll just default to like The Sims, but I love Undertale, like I love all these other indie games as well. But for this I'll say The Sims.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I really do feel like growing up with The Sims, I'm like, oh, you could just trap everybody in a room was like a mind-blowing thing. Is that like a canon event for everybody that's played The Sims?
You can remove the ladders from the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Is there a particular Sims entry that is your jam?
I think the original Sims, just because like that was like when I was a kid, like obviously I feel like, when you have that nostalgia factor, it's hard to beat that. But also the music when you're like building and then that, that when the robber comes and you have that freaky sound.
And then you see him creeping down the street.
Out. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It still freaks me out. So I don't know. It just has such emotional resonance with me that I can't, that like I played like Sims 2. I played like, the other Sims, but I'm like the first one.
Oh, wow.
Fair enough.
Very nice. Speaking of the first one, let's start from the beginning of you. What drew you to the games industry and how'd you end up in community and communications in that realm of the games industry?
Yeah, so my answer to this is basically, and I always hated this when I heard adults say it, where it's like, I just fell into it, because I definitely did fall into it. I never thought about working in games because I had a very like traditional like Asian parent upbringing. So it was like, you got to go to healthcare or become a lawyer or an accountant. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go into healthcare or whatever. So I was doing that for university. And basically in order to pay my way through university, I was like, I'll, get some jobs as a student. And at the time, because like Instagram was blowing up and I was young, a lot of startups were like, you're young, so you know how to do social media, right? I was like, sure.
Like, of course. I can click post.
Of course.
You know what an Instagram is, yeah.
I have a Tumblr and I've made goofy GIFs. This is basically the same thing, right? So I basically kind of just worked my way into like learning more about marketing because of just being thrown into these situations, which worked out really well when I graduated and decided I didn't want to go into healthcare. And kind of was like, okay, so what do I do now? And one of the things that basically happened was I literally was Googling what to do if you don't know what you want to do for your job, or like, things like that. And for some reason I stumbled upon this, like, I forgot what exactly it was called, but it was like a women in game or women in tech thing, I think. And then saw like a bunch of stuff about games, and obviously I've been like playing games my entire life, that I was like, oh, this actually could be a really interesting path to go towards. And that's kind of how like the entire thing started.
Wow. Okay. So it was like, well, I guess it was a community that you found that brought you to games. Interesting. We'll definitely dive more into that. But for folks who are kind of outside of the games industry, folks who might be just listening to this on the side, hello, welcome. Can you explain a little bit about what a community manager, or for me actually, what is a communications director? Like, what is that role? Maybe what does your day-to-day look like? Yeah.
So it's kind of varies depending on like if you're in a really big company, if you're in a small company, it gets kind of messy depending on where you're at. But let's talk about like indie game studios. So generally what a community manager does is like, you'll have thousands, maybe millions of players playing your game, and they'll run into issues in the game. They're like, oh, like this is broken, or oh, you know what, this is actually really cool and I really want to see this new feature added to the game, or this cosmetic added to the game. Or you're, as the studio, developing something and you want feedback from the players and you don't actually know how to get that. Or people are just talking, and people will talk online and they won't necessarily always tag like the studio or the developer, and they just kind of talk about it in the ether, and you want to be able to kind of capture that information. So a lot of what a community manager does is that it's finding the information that you need to basically improve the game or fix any issues that people have, or find issues people are having that and they aren't directly telling you, and boiling that into one easily communicated messaging for the studio and also to the players. So it's like that we're like that, like some people have called it like a camp counselor, some people have called it like, you know, something just in between where you're just the in between.
I was going to say a liaison.
Like a liaison is a good one too.
Yeah, a camp counselor. I like that. I worked at a lot of camps too. And yeah, you are doing a lot of re-explaining things to kids. But that's awesome. That's so cool. So your bio also mentions that you want to be kind, clear, and impactful in your role, in your presence. What made you choose that angle? Because I do feel it's very easy. Like you're just faceless voice representing Innersloth, representing Among Us. What made you choose to be kind, clear, and impactful?
Yeah, I think a lot of my communication style is actually quite impacted by my childhood. Like, I mean, everyone's childhood impacts them. Shocking news here on this podcast. But for me in particular, so my parents, like, they immigrated to, well, technically escaped. They immigrated to Canada without knowing English. So when I was born and, you know, I was learning English and stuff, basically it became a thing where I started having to, at a very young age, translate like government documents and school forms and like medical things and being like, okay, how do I explain this? But actually that was like a really good exercise for me and how it, I think, affects my work now, where it's like, one, a lot of the times, like, you don't know where someone is coming from when they don't understand something. It could be a language barrier. It could be a cultural difference. It could be something like that. So, you know, approach it with kindness. You want to be clear and impactful because, yeah, maybe your messaging, like misunderstandings happen all the time. We all speak English. We could still misunderstand each other. But, you know, it gets even harder when you have different words or different slang, that sort of thing. So that's why I think a lot of my work and where I kind of, how I approach it stems from that.
I love that. I can definitely emphasize with that growing up. I have grandparents that don't speak English, so I've been in that role where you are the translator. And like, I think I've been on the other side now too. I work in government now, and I had to make that call to the parent and then I had to speak to the teenage son, and he was translating, and I thanked him for doing that because I understood the trickiness. But yeah, like being kind and patient is such a necessary role when you deal with like official stuff, bureaucratic stuff. Takes time. People get impatient, but I really like that style and that philosophy. So that's awesome. Okay. Talking a little bit more about your work, I guess. How did you get involved in Among Us and Innersloth and becoming like, their community manager, their communications director?
Yeah, so before Innersloth, I was working at another indie game studio called Kit Fox Games. Love them. Shout out to them. And I do what I do, which is like I like to yap a lot. I like to write a lot.
Yeah. Well, perfect. We're a podcast, so
I know, right? It works out. It works out really well. So I was writing a lot of like articles and doing talks about how I approach the work. And I think at the time when I was first starting, community management was still pretty new. So not a lot of people were talking about it, and especially not in like specifically for video games, because I found a lot of the time when I was trying to find like community management resources, it was very broad and not really applicable to games. So I was like, okay, well, if I start doing talks or like start writing about how I do things, maybe someone who's smarter than me can yell at me and say I'm doing it wrong. Like ended up being like a thing where I just kept writing. All that to say, the Innersloth folks saw what I did, and when Among Us was blowing up, they were basically like, okay, we really need help with our community. Like, that was their number one thing that also they needed help with because there were so many people now. And they contacted me and asked if I would be interested in working with them, which I am very grateful for because obviously I said yes.
What was that time like when Among Us was blowing up?
Oh my gosh, it was
you would have been thrown into the fire, eh?
Yes. So within a week of me joining, AOC tweeted that she was going to play Among Us, and then they were like, okay, and you can go play with her. I was like, huh? Are you sure? So it was a lot. It honestly, it feels like a blur, and similar thing where like you actually get so used to it that you don't realize how crazy it was until after it subsided. So like until things started calming down, because I was just like, go, go, go. I didn't actually like, people were like, oh my God, how are you handling it? I was like, it's fine. You know, it's just, it's normal. And then afterwards you're like, oh my God.
That was not normal.
I'm exhausted. Yeah.
that was wild.
Yeah.
I remember around that time, it was like my buddy, I think we played it on vacation once, Among Us. And then, it was like a couple months later, AOC was playing it. It was like on Jimmy Kimmel or something, or Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, it was Jimmy Fallon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is like a big deal.
I know, it was weird. And I was on the Jimmy Fallon stream as well. And I was like, oh, I'm learning so much.
That's awesome. And that was like your first couple months there. Like,
yeah, that was my first couple of months. So I'm really glad they trusted me like that.
No, that's awesome. Well, now it's like you kind of went through the fire, but Among Us is still huge. It's one of the biggest games out there. How do you manage that? Like, how do you manage managing? We're saying manage a lot this podcast, but how do you manage a community of millions? Do you have to cut through the BS and find what really matters, or do you find a lot of the time the Among Us fans are pretty chill, cool individuals that don't complain about much?
Honestly, they're pretty chill.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Yeah,
right? I know, right? I know. Here's the thing, okay? And I can't speak to other like bigger AAA games, but the good thing about Among Us is that it's not very competitive. Like, obviously, you still have like cosmetics that you want. You still want to beat your friends, but you're not like a top 20 global ranking board, right? We don't have like our esports tournament. So it's not I think it's not as wild or chaotic as it could be.
Okay.
But obviously we still have tens of millions, hundreds of millions of players monthly. So we do have to still take care of that because people be talking. And that one is now I have help. So I have a lovely little community team now. I have someone on player support, Mike. I have a community manager, Doris. I have another community manager, Sophie. So they help me keep the ship running, which is really nice now. But it is a lot of just coordinated efforts with the team. Like, we do our player feedback surveys yearly, where we have like basically different platforms that we manage and like keep track of like individually, just so like, we're trying not to miss anything. And it really is just making sure that you are aware all the time of what people are talking about and you are documenting that. That is the biggest thing, I think, because people will like request many things all of the time, and being able to sort through that, to track numbers is really important.
Okay. How do you, speaking on that then, how do you like know what's worth tracking and know what's like just people being toxic or trolling, or it's like negative feedback? Do you have like a strategy to sort through that?
For sure. There is, in a way, everything is sort of worth tracking, right? If someone is complaining about something, it might mean other people are complaining about it as well. But you want to be careful of is not to equate loudness with like quantity. So someone could just be like a group of people could be really loud and it literally is just affecting 10 people. That doesn't mean that necessarily that these 10 people don't matter. Obviously, it's just like, okay, like how do we actually prioritize this? And that's kind of where like judging the volume, like how many people are actually complaining about something, judging the severity. So it's like if someone is complaining, like if a big group of people are complaining that the cosmetics are shifted slightly to the left and it's annoying, that is less important to me than like a smaller group of people complaining that like all of their save data is gone, right? So you kind of just have to, it's a lot of judgment calls, honestly, and talking to the team itself, because sometimes, for example, the programmers can be like, oh, well, actually, like the cosmetics thing is a super easy fix anyway. That'll take me 10 minutes of work. The save data thing, that's going to take me a little bit more time. So, it's a balancing act.
Did this happen? Is that a very real example?
The cosmetic shifting?
Yes.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. No.
The way you were talking, I was like, that sounds like this happened. But
very specific.
I will say it's like we had technically cosmetics layering was the issue. Okay. Yes, not shifted to the left.
Speaking on that, then, how do you balance between like the the wants of the players versus the vision of the studio and the vision of the game. Like you're a liaison, so you're kind of fighting the team. Well, fighting's a weird word. You are liaising with the team and the players, working with. Yeah. How do you balance that? How do you what's the challenges with that?
The challenge is it's always just that no matter what, someone's going to be a little bit unhappy. And I think you just have to be kind of used to that as a community manager, and you make your case. And it's not like a I told you so, but it's a I'm just letting you know this is going to happen, right? And that's totally fair. And this is all part of the work. And I think what is really important is, one, to talk to the studio and see like, okay, like what are your priorities? So like if a priority is like, let's say, community first requests, so like, you know, we only want to focus on like what the community wants, and that's totally fine too, and we can talk about the benefits and negatives there. Or it's like, you know, creative freedom, so like the developers themselves are like, I have this crazy idea for the game and I want to do this, and like obviously they still care about what the players think, but sometimes, you know, people will request something and they don't actually want that, they want something else. It's just they don't know how to like properly frame it. You know, so it's making sure that you know what the priorities are for the team. And when you are communicating like, hey, if you decide to do this, this is probably what we're going to see, and everyone is on the same page, then it tends to be a little bit more chill. When it comes to like communicating with players, that's kind of where all that like transparency and constant communication kind of comes in, because the more trust that you already have built with your community, if you do something that doesn't make them quite as happy, but you can explain it and they're used to you being like, hey, like obviously we are paying attention to what you want and we are still trying to do things that will benefit you, we just gotta sometimes do things because of legal reasons or whatever, then then that helps.
Oh,
basically.
okay. So it's like almost players appreciate the transparency sometimes.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, we're not doing this because we're devs that don't care about the players. Like we're doing this because there's a legal thing going on in the back or something, if you could even say.
Yeah,
right?
And sometimes you can't, you know, fully explain it, right? But trust.
Kindness. Say it in a kind way. Well, dealing with that negativity can also lead to burnout. Do you have any tips for people managing burnout, especially those in a community-facing role?
Oh, yeah. God, that's really common in community, I would say. It's hard to give advice for this because this one, I think, as with many things, is super dependent on you as a person. Like, what exactly burns you out? And why? Is it the studio? Is it players getting mad at you? Is there a way that they can mitigate this? And also just kind of learning your own internal cues. And this is like, you know, there's a lot of therapy involved in this. There's a lot of like self-reflection and vulnerability with yourself. And just knowing like when you got to just take a break. So for example, like I'm kind of dead inside, but sometimes a comment will get to me, like it'll cut through my like dead insideness. I'll feel like a certain way. I'll be like, I need to like respond to this person immediately. And I know now whenever I have that feeling, I need to just get up.
Yep.
I need to go literally I will literally go and touch grass.
Yeah.
And be like, I'm coming back to this later. So clearly I'm not in actually a good space to handle this right now. And being able to tell that is really important. And obviously for me, one thing that's really important is to be able to find things outside of games or the internet that bring you happiness and bring you joy. I'm pretty strict about, for example, like what I post on social media. I talk a lot about work. I try actually not to talk about myself or like my hobbies a lot because I don't want my hobbies to become content. Because the problem with community management is like you're always like, this is great content. If I post this would be great. And I have to actively work against that for my own hobbies because I'm like, no, you know what? I'm not sharing this. This is just for me. And when I log off and I do my hobby, which is not related to this, and you know, you have to explore all those hobbies and stuff, it's worth it. I swear.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good tip because you are such a face in the games industry that like when you do introduce, and I'm just going to use an example. I know you want to keep hobbies separate, but when you introduce, badminton, now you're a badminton
nice
influencer as well or whatever. not influencer, but that kind of thing, right? Like that's actually a really cool tip that I haven't heard before. So thank you for sharing that. And it's working for you, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. So far, I mean, like, name a hobby I have other than drinking bubble tea. You can't. The internet's a lie. Ooh.
That's cool. That's cool. I like that. Mysterious. One last thing about your job as working on Among Us and at Innersloth. What's the coolest experience you've had in your job? You already mentioned Jimmy Fallon AOC. Anything cooler than that?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard because it's like one of those things where there's so many, and this is gonna sound cheesy as hell, right? Because I'm like, the Fallon thing, cool. It it disappears in the ether or whatever. But like when you see like fan artists like drawing you as like, because everyone on the team has like their little like Among Us OC, and when you see fan artists like doing little fan art of your little Among Us OC, you're like,
aww.
And I have like a folder on my desktop just saved a fan art thing. I'm like, oh, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen. So like those little moments, amazing, incredible. Like that's why I really love work like this. But other things would be, and it's not out yet. It's still in the works, people. But the TV show.
Oh yes,
that's sick. So I'm really excited about that. Whenever it comes out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You guys have some like big celebrities attached to that project.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that too. I completely forgot until now, but I will be watching. Maybe we'll talk about it on our other show about TV shows and movies. Sunset Selects. Check it out.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like having fan art of your stuff, I think is like such a I don't want to say milestone, but like it's such a tell that like, oh, people genuinely care about you. Yeah. Like you've made it. Like people care about what you create as well. Yeah.
Yes. You know how you've really made it though? When you start seeing bootleg merchandise. Yeah. That's why I was like, it's real. It's real.
Good point.
I definitely may or may not have a bootleg little Among Us figurine somewhere in the apartment.
I may have bought some bootleg stuff because I thought it was really funny. So it's fine.
I want to talk a little bit more about your other projects. So you talked briefly about Outersloth, which is such a great name. Innersloth for inside, Outersloth for the outside. Yep. You guys at Outersloth publish indie games now and kind of, I guess, more or less like pay it forward. Like you, Among Us started off as a smallish project and now it's blown up and now we're, what is it? Rising tides raise all ships.
There you go.
Yeah, nice.
How does that role differ than your role in Among Us and working on the game side, like as a publisher?
It's much more chill.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I mean, look, talking to like 20 indie studios is chiller than talking to like millions of players, I will say. Shocking. But yeah, so Outersloth specifically is an indie game fund. So, and we say fund because like, unlike publishers, I think, which do offer a lot of marketing services, localization and stuff, we try to focus more on just, here's the money. We're going to trust you to be autonomous and learn how to do it yourself. Because honestly, I think, and I'm biased, I think it's a really big skill for a studio to know how to do their own marketing and their own PR and go through all of that. And, when you have a little bit of financial backing, that helps it and the pressure so much. And then you can take that skill like beyond whether or not you sign with a publisher next time or whatnot. So it's more hands off because Outersloth is sort of like our side project because at the end of the day, we're still game developers and we want to make games. We don't want to just like be publishing games. But it is cool to basically be able to talk to different studios, see what issues they face depending on the genre that they're working in, and try to help them out with that.
Are there any upcoming games you want to shout out from that Outersloth is actively helping?
There's so many. Okay, I think the most recent one that we announced is called Long Gone, which is like a little zombie apocalypse game. Very cool art. I highly recommend checking it. It has like that 2.5D pixel art perspective shift. It's very cool. It's very cool. Neverway currently is like our biggest like public one, I would say. They announced this year and I think they have more than 200k wish lists already. Which is very nice. It's like a horror farming sim.
Interesting.
That's
okay.
the dream.
Yes. That is the dream. But we have plenty of other games in a lot of different genres. If you go to outersloth.com, you can basically get a whole list of the ones that we have public. And it's very exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure the link is in the description as well. You're also involved in two other things, Wholesome Games and the GDC Advisory Board, the Game Developer Conference Advisory Board. I want to talk about Wholesome Games first. For those who don't know, Wholesome Games is a showcase that happens, I think, like a couple times a year now, about games that are considered wholesome. What is a wholesome game, and why is it important to have this showcase?
Yeah, so the term wholesome as a genre is a hotly debated topic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, is
which
the
is
horror
totally
farming
fair.
sim wholesome?
Yeah, it could be.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
here's the thing, right? And the Wholesome team has talked about this a lot. Like, we aren't in the business of defining what a wholesome game is, because it's one thing to define a racing game, which is mechanics, right? And then it's one thing to try to define wholesome, which is subjective and a vibe.
It's a feeling, yeah. It's an emotion.
Yeah, it's a feeling.
Almost.
But in general, for us, like, it was one of Matthew, the person who started Wholesome Games, basically was seeing at the time, like, you know, obviously there's a lot of combat games, there's a lot of horror games, there's a lot of shooter games, and he just wanted a way to find and conglomerate like more relaxing, uplifting, chill games. Because this was during 2020, and, you know, some would say 2020 was a stressful time. Who knows why? Who knows why? And that's kind of how it all started. So it isn't really here to make like this grand statement about like, oh, this is what a wholesome game is. It's just like, hey, sometimes it can be really powerful and good to make uplifting art in a time when things are looking kind of bleak, and that can be really helpful for people. So that's kind of where we're at with Wholesome Games.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I really enjoy Wholesome Games. Let's see. I'm trying to find. I think my most wholesome game is Peglin, which I think is like, I don't know if you know, it's like pachinko roguelite. I talk about it a lot.
I love that game so
perfect.
much.
I have like all the plushies. But that's my favorite wholesome game. And I think I did discover it through a Wholesome Games showcase. I want to say. So it does work. I do appreciate that initiative. You're also a member of the GDC Advisory Board. What is that experience like? Like being very official. It sounds very governmenty and bureaucratic. Although I know it's not. Everyone's game developers. And
I know game developers can never be taken seriously. GDC is great. GDC is being part of the advisory board is honestly incredible. Basically, for people who don't know, the GDC advisory board like reviews all of the submissions that come in to do like a GDC talk, and we go through them and we debate basically like which ones should make it to GDC like the following year. And it's great because you have a lot of professionals in different areas, in different fields, and you get to talk to them about their expertise, debate with them about like, you know, which things you think should maybe make it to the talks. And it's a really nice learning process and way to get a ton of different, really smart, really cool professionals together in a room and chit chat.
Yeah. And like push the industry forward. I think when you have all the brightest minds are in one room, you can really, see where you can go with, I guess, everyone's wisdom, more or less.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. I feel like I want more opportunities to do that.
Oh, okay. My next question is like, what change or progress are you hoping to champion for the games industry through your roles on the GDC advisory board, or I guess even in general? Like, where do you want to see the game industry go?
Yeah, I think in general, that's very grand, and who knows.
Yeah, where do you want to see life go?
Yeah, since I control the entire games industry,
you have a big focus.
I would honestly, I think, and this is clearly biased because of the work that I do with community management, I think games are such a powerful And they are, right? Like, this is what is bringing us together. Like, games are genuinely such a huge community builder in a way that I don't think a lot of different entertainment mediums have. Like, obviously, like, books have their own fandoms, and movies and TV shows do too. But, like, also sometimes the way that, like, game developers get so directly involved with fandoms is so weird. I feel like very different. Like, you're not talking to, I don't know. Oh no, I don't know movie
Brad
people very
Pitt.
well. I'm like, Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is not going into your Discord and doing a little Q&A, right? So I think for the games industry to kind of acknowledge the absolute cultural shift that we can do with games sometimes, and like help people connect with each other and do so in more and kinder intentional ways is something that I'm trying to push towards. And how I will do that is another question, but that is the dream.
Yeah, no, that's so cool you point that out. I don't think small is the right word, but there is a sense of wanting to collaborate between the developers and the actors and the people that make the games and then the players. Like games have this special thing where it brings people together. Like Jordan and I met through esports. I haven't even met Jordan in real life.
Yep.
Fun fact.
Yep.
Yeah. And now we do a weekly podcast. So that's amazing. And that's because of
that's
games.
so cute.
Yeah.
You're making me blush.
Yeah, no, that's a great vision, and we champion that as well to bring people together. Talking a little bit more about the future, I guess. What is your future vision for Innersloth and Outersloth?
Take the CEO reins and tell us where the company's going.
Yeah.
Release the TV show. Yes.
Step aside, Forrest. It's my turn to run this. For Innersloth, I just want to keep making games with the team. I love the team. I think they are really talented. They're really smart. They're really kind. I don't know. I'm here. Okay. I have a lot of friends who have like dream game ideas that they want to make. I'm not that kind of person. I just love doing what I do, which is marketing and supporting someone else's vision. So I want to just keep doing that. So when it comes to Innersloth, it's like, will anything ever be as big as Among Us again? Probably not. That's okay. It would be kind of crazy. I mean, it'd be cool, I guess. It'd be kind of overwhelming. But I would love to just see like us making new games, and also just seeing what the like Among Us IP can be. Like the TV show is really cool. I would love to see us do other things. I don't even know what that would be, but I think Among Us just itself is such a big IP and such a moment in time that I would like to see it grow in whichever way that is. And for Outersloth, like the dream for that has always just been to continue being able to help other indie games get made. And whether those are like, you know, super big games, smaller games, weird games, like I think the industry benefits when there's not just, this is no shade at all to like publishers or anything, like just different ways to get your game out there. And obviously because publishers need to pay their salaries with the games that they publish, like they're looking for a certain type of game and a certain like, you know, return on investment. And the beauty of Outersloth is that because Among Us pays our salaries, we can kind of just get riskier with it. We can get weirder with it. Like technically the first game we released with Outersloth is a game called Clickholding, which
I have played that.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It's
And
super weird.
and you know, the name is exactly as it sounds. Yeah, it's one of those things where being able to do that is fulfilling within itself, and hopefully like the games as they come out and as they kind of gain more traction, like that helps sustain Outersloth and we can continue doing what we do.
Love that. Yeah, just keep the you used the ship earlier. Keep the ship steering and moving, and support people's dreams. Because like maybe Clickholding is not necessarily a game for everybody, but it was somebody's artistic vision that they brought into the world. I enjoyed it. It was wild.
It was a game concept dreamed up after a few game developers got a little tipsy.
That's how the best art is made, honestly. Like,
it's true. It's true.
I didn't want to bury the lead too much, but you came out with a new book called Mastering Community Management, Chaos, Compassion, and Connections in Games by Victoria Tran. amazing. Congratulations. That is such an achievement. You don't need to spoil the whole book because you should get it. It's available on Amazon and Kindle and Indigo and wherever you find books. But if you were to give folks tips on community management, how they can learn, or even direct them to resources, what would those be? Where would they find them? What are your tips on being a good community manager?
Yeah, if you want to get all those tips, you can buy my book, Mastering Community Management. But also, as Samson was saying, I do have a newsletter. I'm of the mindset that I don't want to like gatekeep knowledge. Like, obviously, you do have to buy the book. Sorry, like I can't spoil that.
Link in the description.
Link in the description. But I do a monthly newsletter for community development tips, which is really nice because that can be, kept more up to date than like a book. And I do have a website where I do write a lot still about like community management stuff. Clearly, I just talk about community management a lot. But the book itself is supposed to be, because there are a lot of resources out there. There are a lot of great like GDC talks, other people who write like, marketing articles, a lot of great newsletters out there, but it's all just out there. So I wanted to create the book in order to create like a little bit of a lesson plan. It has activities in it. It has like, hey, this is what you can do pre-production, when the game is announced, when the game launches, after the game launches. A lot of people forget that, there's marketing after a game launches. And just have that a little bit more streamlined because it can get really overwhelming and you need a better resource for that. So at the end of the day, all that to say, like if you want to get better at community management, a lot of it is just doing. You have to talk to people. You have to be in the spaces. You have to pay attention to the ways people are talking, the language that they use. You have to get good at writing because a lot of your communications will be online. And yeah, if you write with like proper capitalization and periods, sometimes people are like, they're mad at me.
What?
They hate me, right? And you don't use enough emojis, or maybe you use too many emojis and that annoys the group that you're talking to. It's all like community management is just paying attention and being curious about people and what they're doing, how they're talking.
This is I don't even know how to describe it, but when I did community management, everybody said, "Oh, Samson, it's like this role was made for you because you're such like an extrovert. You like love people." I don't know if I'd describe myself an extrovert. I like to sit at home a lot of the time. But do you feel like someone needs to be an extrovert to be a community manager, to do that kind of stuff, like people-facing stuff?
No,
yeah,
absolutely not. I personally identify as an introvert, and I basically have to mentally prep myself for conventions to be like, to talk more, or for a podcast to talk more. But for instance, I am known in my friend group and in the company and with other game developers who have hung out with me long enough. It's like, oh, Victoria will leave the party very early because at some point my social battery is gone. I'm like, well, see you later. So yeah, you don't need to be extroverted. You don't need to be any sort of whatever verted ambivert. You just need to, again, be curious about people and be willing to talk to them and know that sometimes you will have to take on the mantle of like, hey, you have to initiate the conversation, but that doesn't mean you need to constantly be talking. Listening is a big part of it.
That's true. Active listening is part of that skill for sure. What's one core principle that you believe every community manager or communications director should live by, should do?
I think I've already said it, but just stay curious. I think a lot of the time, again, especially when maybe you're having a really bad day or players are being particularly angry or angsty or something, it can be really easy to just fall into the like, oh my God, like you all suck, or like, you get like very negative about yourself. But when you're able to just stay curious about like, okay, why are they acting this way? Like, what is happening here? Is it something that I'm doing? Is it something external? Is something happening in the world right now that might be kind of antagonizing a lot of people? Like when you think about things in that way, I think that will help you a lot as a community manager.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's very like you have to consider a lot of different factors then when in your communication, like not just your audience, but world events as well. That's wild.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Well, in your journey, is there like a moment that you realize like, oh, this is what I love to do and what I want to do forever until you retire or not? This could be a story time if you wish.
I always feel bad when I'm like, I don't have like a huge story about this. I don't think there was a moment in my mind that like triggered. I always want to have like one of those beautiful love stories where it's like, when did you know you wanted to marry them?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, like this happened. I don't have that. I think some of it is just that one, I still get that like exact same high when I feel like, oh, like this player is so excited about this update, or like, oh, they're gonna love this. Like I still get that feeling whenever I'm prepping communications for something. But also like, honestly, I see a lot of, and I totally get it, community management sometimes can be like a stepping stone role for someone else to go somewhere. So like narrative designer, or they get into production, and I have a lot of friends who have switched fields, which is totally fine. I respect and love that. But for me, every time I would see that, and I tried a little bit of production. I tried like poking my head into narrative. I was like, it doesn't hit the same. It's not, it's not bringing me that same amount of joy. Like, because I think no matter what, people are so chaotic and weird that nothing I can dream of or create or do, nothing anyone can create is as chaotic as the human mind. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is exactly what I love. It's so weird. And I want to stay in it.
I love that. It's like there's like a beauty to the chaos, and it also sounded like, if I'm correct, like you just like making stuff and giving it to people, or being able to be the one to present that to folks and be like, here you go, enjoy. Let me know what.
Yeah, like you know, when you can recommend like a friend, like you know, if you like show them a TV show and they're obsessed with it, you're like,
yeah, I did that.
That was me. That was me.
Yeah. It was like, oh, it's like, yeah, mango bubble tea from Maku Tea or whatever. That was me.
Exactly.
I told you to go there. Yeah, I love that. Well, we're coming up to the end of our podcast. Once again, thank you for coming on. Is there anything else you want to bring up about your journey as a community manager, like your work, your book, your life?
Yeah, I would say the last thing I would like give people is that I've had a lot of questions of like, how do I find the time, or like, how do I manage all of these things? And a lot of it is just that sometimes you just got to do something and it'll kind of suck for a little while, and then you'll like it, or like you'll get used to it, right? So like writing the book sucked. I'm not even gonna lie. It's late technically. Like I was like, I'm gonna finish this in a year. 2 years later, it's finally actually finished and out. So I was really late on that. But I think because we are so used to like, you know, a little bit more instant gratification, you can watch every season of every show that you've ever wanted at the, you know, sometimes you just, if you want to start a newsletter, you just gotta start writing it. Like, stop trying to do, it's that, what is it? Perfection is the enemy of progress or whatever. You just gotta do it. Like, if you want to start a podcast, then start a podcast, right? Like, no one stopped, like, you just gotta do it. At some point, you can't just keep talking about it. If you really wanted to do it, you're going to start putting the effort to do it, or learning something, that sort of thing. So that is my little advice to people if they're looking to get into community management or anything else, is to just poke your head in, get a little messy with it, do it.
If you want it, you'll do it. It's how bad you want it. I like that. Yeah. I definitely echo that as well. Like, this podcast it's like, man, I really want to start a podcast. Jordan, do you want to start a podcast? Let's do it.
Yeah.
I love that. Victoria, thank you so much for coming on to our little show, Grow Up, Level Up, How We Play, where we chat with folks about how games influence their lives and help them grow up, and how they implement games in their day-to-day. Once again, before we close out the show, what do you want to promote? Who do you want to shout out? What bubble tea flavor was it again? A mango or something?
Mango, coconut, bubble tea. Shout out to that. Yeah, the only shout out I have is to buy my book, or send the link, victoriatran.com/book, to someone who you think might be interested in community management, and then review the book. Thanks.
Amazing. Yeah. I can't wait to read this. This is really cool. Even though I'm not in community management anymore, I feel like there's still wisdom in there. Like I still work with people. I still deal with some sort of community. I always love that like cross-disciplinary stuff.
Yes.
What do you call it? Multidisciplinary, that kind of stuff. So I am curious about your book. I'll make sure to grab a copy. Well, that brings us to the end of our show. If you enjoyed what you listened, make sure to leave a comment and a like and subscribe on YouTube or podcast or wherever you are listening. My name is Samson, aka Samson XP on all the socials. You can find this podcast at Grow Up Level Up on all the socials as well. Jordan, where can people find you if people want to stay with you?
You can stay with me on all socials at Sir Dr. JM. That's at Sir DRJM.
Amazing. And Victoria, once again, where can people find you and follow you on all your antics in community management?
Yep, I got my website, victoriatran.com, and I didn't do the smart brand thing and align all my socials. So the VTran on Twitter and victoriatran.bluesky.social on Blue Sky.
We'll put all the links below. Don't worry. Once you follow, they got it. Victoria, honestly, it's been an honor. Thank you for coming on to our show again and sharing all about your journey and giving us the inside scoop on, I guess, how you work at Among Us and Innersloth. And congrats on your new book once again.
Thank you for having me.